Hello and welcome back to the Championship Crowd podcast. With an international break coming up, we've got a shorter podcast for you today, just reviewing the weekend results. Of course, I'm joined again by Adam. How are you doing, Adam?
I'm well, thank you, mate. Obviously, Norwich 4 points this week. Not ideal. Would have preferred 6, but can't complain. 9 wins, 1 draw in the last 10. Although not such a good weekend for anyone who is Welsh or supports Swansea.
No. I looked at the screen and I'm smiling, and inside I'm not smiling. I'm trying to put on a fake smile, I guess, for the podcast, but well, Saturday probably the worst sporting day. I don't think you can have a worse sporting day, to be honest. Evening, really. Yeah. Let's not mention it. Well, we have to mention it because it's a championship podcast, and I think the fans are going to want to start with that game. South Wales Derby, 1-0. I can't even say their name. Don't want to say it. Adam, mate, you talk for it.
Yeah, so obviously, probably the big game of the weekend. Meant a lot to both teams. Obviously, Cardiff still have aspirations of the playoffs this season under Mick McCarthy, and Swansea obviously knew that Norwich were probably getting away from them, but Watford obviously had picked up that win in the earlier game, and obviously Brentford had slipped up against Forest. So Swansea had an opportunity here to get 3 points and probably pull themselves away a little bit from Brentford, but Cardiff decided that record is going to stand. That a Welsh side is not going to do the double in the South Wales Derby for another year at least, because obviously Aidan Flint header 8 minutes in, and to be fair, like, I don't actually think Swansea really threatened massively. I think you had a few shots that went wide, but actually shots on target, I think I'm right in saying you only had a couple. So on that regard, you can't have any complaints. Cardiff were blocking everything, to be fair to them. They really wanted that win, and I think you saw at the end the scenes, they sort of all huddled together and celebrating, and that was a massive win for them in their season.
Yeah, I think that huddling together was kind of repeating what we did. We took a massive picture of all of us early on in the season, so I think their players would have seen that previously, and hence why they were doing it. But yeah, as you say, 22 shots, 1 shot on target. It was not good enough. But I did think we did create some good chances. Whitaker had 2 probably golden opportunities, I'd argue, that he's got to be finishing. Don't blame him. He hasn't had enough games or professional games to be finding that clinical edge and knowing that know-how in these big moments. But I did think he did well to get into spaces, and we haven't been even having those chances recently. And so I don't think you can't get annoyed at him for not taking those chances, because without him on the pitch, we probably wouldn't have had those chances. He's just got to find that clinical edge, and towards the end of the season, as good as he was at creating his chances, you need to be clinical, and that's poor. Obviously, Ayew, still get flashbacks from it. So close, what a header, and hits the post, and it just sums up the day. We just weren't going to score. Probably could have played another 24 hours and weren't going to score. It was just, Cardiff knew they didn't want to lose that record, and they did well. Fair play to them. I think Flint, as you mentioned, scored there. It was a good save from Woodman, first of all, but we've got to react to it. We know they're good from set pieces, from long throw-ins or corners, and we've got to react to it. Good save from Woodman. Flint gets it. There's 38 goals for him since 2014, the most amount of goals for any defender in the Football League from that period. And why are we not marking him then? Why are we not getting to the ball first? Disappointing.
It's a disappointment, though, that you've only picked up now 4 points from the last 12 available. Obviously, how do you see that? Like, is that a concern, or is that actually we're going to rectify this and have a really good last 8 games of the season?
It's a massive concern. It's a concern. We've not been playing well. We were getting results and we weren't playing well. And I was saying that's quality, because we can then find some form and just carry on getting results. But last week, massive hit. Bournemouth, reality check, 3-0 defeat there. When I thought we actually, against most people's views, played actually all right in the first half, but then they scored their goals. Very important goal before half-time with Joe Latiboudiere scoring an own goal. Bit unlucky. And then yeah, then we just couldn't come out. We couldn't get any more goals, and it was just a shame. 3-0 defeat. I did feel we did well in the first half. I felt we did better than we had been playing in terms of running off the ball, making movement, and trying to force chances. Weren't really getting many chances, but I thought for us compared to the previous games when we were getting results, it wasn't too bad. Same with Cardiff. I think second half again we were trying to show an edge, but we just at the moment can't find those goals, and we know that. And the fact that where we are in the league is because of our defensive record. I know only 1 goal against Cardiff, but 3 against Bournemouth, and recently we've like conceded more goals than we had in the first like half of the season, and it's just poor. And we need to have this international break, which you're going to touch on. It's not really a massive break for the players going on international duty. They're going to play more games with a Friday fixture coming up. We'll talk about that later, but hopefully it's a chance for people to go away with their countries, have a few days with their family, and just rethink. Steve Cooper may come back out. I think we might go to 4 in defence come the end of the season, but he's going to have a think what we're going to change tactically because it's not working at the moment.
The only blessing is that Brentford slipped up yet again on Saturday at home to Nottingham Forest. Obviously, a few iffy refereeing decisions. Obviously, Brentford have had sort of rub of the green, I suppose you'd say, in terms of refereeing decisions recently after it seemed that Swansea had similar earlier on, sort of, a couple of weeks back now. How did you view that one, Chris? Obviously, a 1-1 draw in the early kickoff.
Yeah, you touched on it, and well, I was ecstatic, as you can imagine, with them. Drawing, just thinking, well, what a great chance to now create a big gap between them going into our game, and it was a good result for Forest. It was, I think, well deserved. I don't think Brentford did much. They obviously did a few good movements. I thought Ivan Toney had a massive chance towards the end, and he decided to pass it. It was probably around 60th minute or so, and I thought that could have put Brentford into an easy position had he scored then. But as you say, controversial decision, penalty or not, Adam?
I mean, Sky obviously was saying this was a penalty. I mean, there was contact. Obviously, the guy has got his hands around Toney. Has he done enough there to pull Toney down in the way that he went down? I'm not so convinced. I think there was a little bit of a sort of overreaction from Toney to buy the referee, in giving him a penalty. And let's face it, as soon as he gets a penalty, I think I saw a stat, he's missed 1 penalty in his whole career, and that was for Peterborough quite a few years back. So, he's always going to score that. So that obviously gives Brentford the lead. And yeah, obviously then Forest, to be fair, they had a really good reaction because they were awful against Norwich during the week. So they needed a reaction, and obviously they got that, a good finish by Krovinovic, I think that's how you pronounce it. So massive goal. Obviously, Forest are still technically fighting relegation. I think they'll be okay. I mean, they're 7 points above the drop zone, but that's still another big point for them. It will probably be enough to secure their safeties.
Yeah, I was trying to find a stat in terms of penalties, but I'm pretty sure Norwich have got the most amount of penalties this season, followed closely by Brentford, with us sitting in mid-table. And it's a bit ridiculous how we're getting quite a lot of stick when only 1 penalty went our way. All the others were Stonewall penalties, in my opinion. Brentford, it's a penalty. It's a penalty. Don't get me wrong, that's a penalty. But I'm sorry, but you don't see that given as a penalty. It's never given as a penalty. You can't tug in a box, but everyone does it. It's a penalty for every single corner if you give it. It would have been a penalty for you guys against us in that game when we touched your arm and then one of your players went down. And it's an interesting one. If it goes the other way, obviously we can't really speculate. It's meant to be a Premier League referee, but I don't think he's going to give that to Forest. A Forest player went down in the box, a little contact. I thought it's not a penalty, but we saw Brentford get a similar penalty a few weeks back. But anyways, Brentford did slip up. Watford are flying. 3-0. And I'll keep saying I don't think they're going to do it. I'm now going to say they are strong favourites for doing it. And it seems like they've started to find form and they're getting the results. And it's a comfortable 3-0 win against Birmingham. Aside that, before going into the weekend, you might have thought easy win, but they did get a good result in the week with a new manager, Lee Bowyer, coming in. But Watford eased it, didn't they?
Yeah, Watford, last 8 games are averaging 2.63 points per game. So keep that run going, and that's them automatically promoted behind Norwich. And they've now actually got the best defence in the division. They've only conceded 26 goals. I think Norwich are 27 and Swansea just after that. So the only thing is also what I'd say, though, is that Watford's running is arguably the worst of the top four. I looked at it. They've got Sheffield Wednesday at home. Obviously, Sheffield Wednesday picked up a little bit. They've got Middlesbrough away, who are still technically fighting for the playoffs. They've got Reading at home again in the playoff picture. Luton's a derby, that's away from home as well. Got Norwich away, Millwall at home, Brentford away, and Swansea at home. So that's the 3 sides in the top four and a couple of the sides in the playoffs. So a lot depends on how they, come out of that. It's all okay beating the sides at the bottom, but actually what will decide whether they get automatic promotion or not is whether they beat Swansea, beat Brentford, and beat Norwich, because lose to them sides and it will be Swansea or Brentford who can potentially pip them to that second spot.
Yeah, 100%. There's 5 wins in their last 5 games, and means they're 6 points ahead of Swansea. But we at Swansea and Brentford do have that game in hands, and that could come crucial. Of course, with those, with those hard fixtures coming up for Watford, that you think as long as Brentford and Swansea get within 3 points of them going into what Brentford's second last game, our last game of the season against Watford, it could be a very, very exciting end to the season in terms of that automatic spot. But we do think Norwich probably safe.
Yeah, I think I saw a stat. Norwich actually need 14 points to confirm promotion, automatic promotion this season. Only thing I'd say is it probably isn't even going to be that figure. Let's face it. I think every side below is going to at least drop another 3, 4, 5, 6 points. So probably looking around about the 3 wins from the last 8 mark. So I can't see a world where Norwich don't do that. I mean, they're 18 games unbeaten at home, which is actually their longest run unbeaten in 35 years. Only 1 defeat all season, and that came to a Wayne Rooney free kick in the 90th minute for Derby. So looking at that, and I think actually sort of compared Norwich's run from the season they won the title a few years back, and after 38 games, they actually only had 78 points. So they're 5 points better off than they were that season at the exact same stage. So you look at that and you think Norwich got 94 points that season, and I think they'll only need that to match that, not that figure effectively, to win the title and gain promotion this season. So I would say pretty comfortable. Only thing I'd say is Blackburn were very good at the weekend. Obviously, Norwich could have actually claimed a record with 10 straight wins. Would have been a club record in the Championship, but unfortunately couldn't do it. Sam Gallagher equalised for Blackburn around about the 78th minute. Good header. Norwich weren't at their best. I think there's probably a little bit of fatigue. Obviously, there's been a lot of games in that spell sort of since Christmas where it's been Tuesday, Saturday. And I just think that probably took its toll on Norwich. And probably the worst factor in it all was Ben Gibson went off injured, which looks like it's an injury that's going to keep him out for the rest of the season. So that's pretty gutting because he's been so solid at the back alongside Grant Hanley. And actually, Demetrius Giannoulis went off injured as well at left back. He got a head injury clash with one of the Blackburn players. So hopefully that's not as long term. I think that was just concussion, and hopefully he'll be back for next Friday, effectively Friday week against Preston. So that shouldn't be too bad. So yeah, on the whole, very happy.
Yeah, it's interesting about Blackburn, obviously not playing for anything, but they've played really well against Swansea previously. Should have got a win there, I felt. And then Brentford, they were unlucky to lose. And then they turned up again on the weekend against Norwich. And it's good. That's what you want to see. You don't want teams handing the top sides wins when they're not playing for anything. And it shows Blackburn are trying to go for it. A good draw against you guys. But I think with the result in the week and on the weekend now for Norwich, you guys are safe. You are going up. It's going to have to take something extraordinary for that to change. But down at the bottom, things could be changing. Sheffield Wednesday, Darren Moore obviously came in, and now he's got a crucial result on the weekend, a 2-1 win away to Barnsley. What a game.
Yeah, I mean, Sheffield Wednesday, I mean, they were very good against Norwich the other week. I said it on here. They were probably one of the better sides we've actually played this season. And yeah, obviously they had a good draw in the week against Huddersfield, I think I'm right in saying. So yeah, that's 4 points from their last 2 games. Jordan Rhodes looks like he's hitting some form up front for them. I think I saw a stat. He's in his 13 games he scored for Sheffield Wednesday. They've got 11 wins and 2 defeats. So if he continues to score every single game for the rest of the season, I think Sheffield Wednesday will be comfortably mid-table. So they just need to keep playing Jordan Rhodes and hope he scores, because he's been excellent, to be fair. And I think if they're going to survive, they need to obviously beat the sides in and around them in the games they have left this season, and they just need to effectively mount a run of 3 or 4 wins. And I can actually see them doing it, because Barnsley were actually unbeaten in 12 championship games, and they've gone there and won. So credit where it's due. Darren Moore is definitely working his magic at the bottom there.
Yeah, crucial win for them. Listening into it sometimes on the radio, it did seem like Barnsley were having quite a lot of chances and were playing really well, but Sheffield Wednesday did what they have to do, and they got the result, and they got the 3 points, and it's going to be crucial. I'm looking at the game that got postponed. We've still got to play Sheffield Wednesday because they postponed the game for a frozen pitch. So that could be challenging when they're fighting to survive, and they're going to be definitely in a shout for it. Another team, of course, though, Rotherham got a result as well. So low down, teams finding results. And we saw it last season when it just all changed, when teams like Barnsley, Luton managed to survive last season. And it could do the same for Rotherham and Sheffield Wednesday. It's going to be an exciting end to the season. A 2-0 victory for Rotherham away to Bristol City.
Yeah, obviously they had quite a few weeks off, didn't they, with all these COVID cases. Obviously came back with no Paul Warne in the dugout during the week, and got a bit of a thumping off Watford by 4-1 at home. So you thought, okay, this could take a bit of a toll on their confidence going into this big game away at Bristol City, who had a little bit of a resurgence under Nigel Pearson. I think he turned them around a little bit. But yeah, comfortable 2-0 win. 2 headers, which you probably come to expect from Rotherham. They're a very sort of pump it long and let's try and get a header on this kind of team. And if they can do that between now and the end of the season, they'll be okay, because I think what you've got to note is the fact they've got 4 games in hand on Birmingham, and they're only 3 points behind. So you look at that and you think to yourself, if they can get a win and a draw, they're actually above the drop zone. So I wouldn't bet against them. I actually think 2 wins in the last 3. If they can honestly get, I think, 1 win in every sort of 3 games between now and the end of the season, I think they'll survive quite easily, because there's a few sides above even Birmingham who are dropping points, at a rate at the moment that will actually drag them right into that towards the end of the season, where they could be going into that last game of the season fearing relegation to League One.
Yeah, it's going to be so exciting. You say those games in hand, I feel we touched on it before. Like, of course, you want games in hand. It's going to be amazing. But it could be challenging, a battle of fitness with a small squad for them, with games coming thick and really fast. But they've got those games in hand, and you think they're in a strong position now to see it out and manage to survive this season. But it's going to be very exciting, especially, as we mentioned, Sheffield Wednesday getting the result. But for Wickham, I don't think they can pull it off.
Yeah.
0-0 against Coventry. That was probably their last chance.
Yeah, I mean, that result's left Wickham, 11 points off Birmingham, with the same number of games. So 8 games to go. Are they going to win 8 out of 8 to survive? I don't think so. I mean, they've only won 6 games all season. So I unfortunately think they'll be relegated, and they might get a couple of wins towards the end of the season when they're already relegated, and they've got nothing to play for, just pride, and they might pick up a couple of good results. But unfortunately, I just think the quality has sort of undone them a bit this season. They obviously got up to the Championship a bit unexpectedly last season. Obviously, points per game got them into the playoffs, and they won the playoff final. And credit where it's due. Their team spirit this season has never been low. They've always gone into every game hoping they can get a win. But yeah, I think you can say Wickham will be in League One next season, and they can start preparing for that. And I reckon they'll have a good season if they perform like they have this season in the Championship. No reason why they can't arrive back in the Championship in a couple of years.
Yeah, it's a shame for them, for their fans, especially, not to experience the Championship. I think they were one of the teams that managed to get a few fans back in when fans were allowed back in. But it's a shame that all their fans weren't able to experience the Championship, because they did so well to manage to pull up an amazing thing to get promoted last season. And I think they could struggle to come back up. They not really have the finances there, so it could be a challenge to come back to the Championship. We would love to see them again, but of course, you never know. Gareth Ainsworth could pull off an amazing escape, but I find it quite unlikely. Coventry, though, not safe at all.
I think Coventry are still, in that sort of hunting pack there that, like teams like Rotherham will be targeting to bring down with them. I think what you've probably got to note is the fact that Coventry do have a game in hand still. So, if they can win that, then that will definitely ease a little bit of pressure. But the fact that Sheffield Wednesday and Rotherham are picking up points will be a concern to Coventry. I think the one result that Coventry obviously got the other week was that result against Derby, and that was a massive win because had they have lost that, they actually would be in the relegation zone pretty much as we speak. So I think that was a massive result. I think they just need to be beating the sides around them and they'll probably be okay. But yeah, they're still going to be looking over their shoulders, I think, right till the end of the season.
Yeah, and you mentioned that result against Derby. It's vital result against Derby because now they've got 3 points in their last 7 games. They've now found themselves from flying under Rooney into a really damaging position. Could they be drawn back into it? You say Coventry got this game in hand and it's on Birmingham and Derby. Could Derby be going down?
I mean, obviously, when Cameron was on here the other week, he was sort of saying Derby are safe because I think they'd had a couple of good wins and obviously they got the draw against Forest and they looked well clear. I think they were about 10 or 12 points clear of the drop zone, something like that. Obviously, this run now of 7 games with only 3 points, that's obviously, as we've said, sides like Rotherham and Sheffield Wednesday are starting to pick up some points. So they've got to be concerned because they've still got some big games. I think they've still got to play Reading, they've still got to play Norwich, they've still got to play Swansea. They're going to be tough games against sides that are still fighting for something at the top. So I don't know. I still think Rooney's got a big job on his hands there, to keep them up. I think they've probably got the best quality players individually of all the sides in the bottom sort of 6 or 7 there. But end of the day, we've seen it before. There's sides that have been relegated from the Championship who you think they've got too much quality to go down, and they have been relegated. So I wouldn't be counting my chickens as Wayne Rooney that they'll be in the Championship next season.
And yeah, Rooney's not had that experience of surviving with a lower league team. All his playing career as well, I guess obviously starting with Everton, but Manchester United, fighting for titles. He's never experienced that down at the bottom of the season, and it could throw him. You never know. He could be struggling. He has been struggling in the last 2 games. Be interesting to see what happens there in terms of management.
Yeah.
How can get rid of Rooney because he was doing so well before, but at the moment he's struggling.
He's massively struggling. Yeah, I think there's no guarantee that obviously he will be in the Championship next season. I think he'll probably be hoping they can get a couple of wins. I think they've still got to play a few sides in that sort of mid-table bracket that have got nothing to play for. So you'd be hoping they might be able to get a few wins in them games, but I certainly don't fancy their chances.
Yeah, I don't fancy their chances at all. But another manager who was struggling and now is gone. 1 win in 9 for Preston. Alex Neil sacked.
Yeah, Alex Neil, former Norwich City manager. Obviously, Norwich have actually got Preston in their next game on that sort of Easter Friday. And obviously, I was looking at that game thinking Alex Neil will want to try and, get a job done over Norwich. I think they've got, 1 win in 9? He'll be looking at that game thinking, former side, let's try and get a win here. But, he's been sacked. And I think, that's probably Preston preparing for next season, I would say. They'll be getting sort of a manager in now looking, sort of thinking to themselves, let's try and get someone who next season can try and mount us a sort of, effectively a playoff or promotion charge because, they've sort of been in and amongst that sort of top 6 bracket a few times in recent years and just always dropped away. So I think it was the style of football that Alex Neil was playing that was upsetting a lot of Preston fans. I think they wanted them to be playing more of a sort of possession-based football, but they started to sort of play it, pump it long kind of football, which I just think, I suppose you could kind of say that kind of maybe suits Preston, but I don't know. I kind of think probably the right decision at the right time.
Yeah, but I guess, you say building into next season, they're not playing for anything this season, and it's going to give the manager a bit more time to see what to do, see the players, and then build thinking going forward to next season. And of course, a few competitive games that don't mean anything's probably better than having some friendlies to get to know the team. So it could be a good decision there from Preston. It'll be interesting to see who comes in from them. But you mentioned there your game on Easter Friday, briefly touch on it, because it is a weird one. They've got some people playing games on Wednesday in their internationals. I know Wales are playing on Tuesday night of that last week. but then there's got championship games on the Friday. What's happening with the schedule?
I mean, Daniel Farker actually came out in the media on Saturday. Well, it's been documented now for a few weeks. Norwich have been a little bit annoyed at the EFL because of the timing of this game. You know, they're playing Preston on Easter Friday, and it is also a 3:00 kickoff. And I think Norwich have, it's either 5 or 6 of the players who played in the first team, starting 11 on Saturday, play on Wednesday night, all over the world, and they're all having to fly back. Well, Norwich are trying to get them to fly into Manchester to pick them up, ready for the Preston game on the Friday at 3:00. But obviously, Daniel Farker's not going to be able to, employ his instructions for the game. These players are all going to be tired from, one, playing a game less than 48 hours beforehand, also having to fly on a plane back into the UK with all the COVID protocols. I just don't see how that can possibly work. And it's an unfair advantage on Norwich that they're having to deal with that, when I don't think Preston have obviously quite the same sort of similar situation, because they don't have as many internationals. So that's why Preston are more like, let's get this game ahead, because it probably offers them an even bigger advantage than just being at home, because Norwich are having to, have all these players that are tired, and it's not really fair, is it?
It's not fair, but also I do think we, generally football fans, always seem to have this club above country, and I don't get it. Surely your club, you should love to play for your club. I'm guessing those players do, because they're wanting to go off an international break. But so often with the England squad, I don't see that passion, and I love seeing the passion for the Wales, and we just love going away for international break. We love playing for our country. For rugby, the clubs just know what happens. The players go off the internationals, and they have to field another squad. I guess it's Norwich's fault for having all these international players. It's bad. I don't think the EFL should have done it, but also it gives a chance for Preston to have a chance against these players. But it'll be interesting to see what Daniel Farke would do. How many players would be actually starting though for Norwich?
So I'm just looking at the fixtures here for that week on the Wednesday there. So Greece are playing. So Dimitris Giannoulis at left back would be playing for Greece.
He's got an injury, didn't you touch on?
He did get injured, but I think just because it was concussion, I would be inclined to say that he will be okay for that game. So it depends on if he flies off to Greece or not. I think they'll be analysing him in the next couple of days. Scotland play that night. Well, Kenny McLean and Grant Hanley have both been called up to Scotland, so they both started on Saturday. Poland play that night. Shemi Plaketa was on the bench the other night, so he will technically be in the Poland squad for that one as well. Finland play, so Pukki will be playing as well. I think England under-21s as well, actually. So that's Ollie Skipp and Max Aarons will both be playing for England under-21. So we're talking half the Norwich starting 11 on Saturday that will be playing on the Wednesday night around, sort of any time from sort of 5 p.m. along to 8 p.m, having to fly back from all these random countries all over the world and be sort of expected to play at 3 p.m. at Deepdale on Friday. So only thing I'd say is the fact that Norwich is so far clear at the top of the Championship, it probably doesn't bug me quite as much as it would if I was in Swansea's position, and you needed to pull up that gap to Watford, and you're put at a massive disadvantage like that because the EFL have decided to schedule this game on a Friday at 3:00 after all these players have played less than 40 hours before. So
yeah, the big one for me is, of course, Connor Roberts, and he needs a break. Last few games is for it's been best player the whole season, and last few games he has looked a bit leggy, even for his amazing stamina standards. And don't blame him; he's just constantly running up and down, and he's going to be playing probably against Belgium on Wednesday, we'd expect, and then he'll be playing on Tuesday as well. Hopefully, fingers crossed, they decide to play Nico Williams for the friendly, so he's not playing all the games. But yeah, Tuesday then on to Friday night. It's not a big turnaround, but they are used to it now. But it's a shame they can't get a break. But as we mentioned, international week. So next week, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be coming on with quite a lot of different fans. First of all, looking at those automatic places, hearing from fans around there, then the playoffs, and then the relegation zones. So definitely tune in next week to hear views from many different fans. We'll discuss their different opinions, give our take on who we think will be getting those top 2 spaces, the top 6, and who will be in the bottom 3. So make sure to tune in next week. Adam, any last words?
Yep, so obviously all the usual jazz. So obviously follow us on Twitter at ChampCrowdPod. You can search for us on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all of those platforms. Also, Champ Crowd Pod. Obviously on WD Sports YouTube as usual. So if you want to watch us visually, just search for them and you can find us on there. But more importantly, just everyone have a good few weeks. Obviously international, so you can sit back and enjoy them, or grudge them if that's not your cup of tea. Then you'd rather be watching your club. Then obviously it'll be a bit of a hard few weeks for you. But yeah, just enjoy yourselves, and everyone have a good week, and we'll be back next week with a hopefully quite exciting podcast.
Exactly. Looking forward to hearing from many fans next week. Enjoy your week, guys. Have a watch of Wales beating Belgium on Wednesday night. Can't wait. I might watch the repeat of the 2016 quarter-final tomorrow night before the game on Wednesday, just to remind myself that great Harrelson Carney finish, turns it, puts it in, Cruyff turn, then 3-1, Vokes' header. Memories. Anyways, enjoy your week. See you next week.